Two. TI-81, TI-85. What are you doing? Which one is it? You're playing Doom, aren't you?
I wasn't playing Doom. I was doing physics because I still have homework, even though the con's in.
He's playing Doom. Are we live?
We're live now.
Yeah.
You want me up here?
Absolutely. Get up here. The only issue I have with that is we can't see the comments, so I'm gonna have to get my phone out, guys. I'm not staring at my phone because I'm not listening to you or paying attention to you, even though you're being needy. I'm checking to see what people are saying.
Oh, of course, you're just on social media productively.
Yeah, absolutely, which is what everyone does. I do love to watch myself. Anyway, welcome to Cutting Edge Hero. I am the Nerd King, Danny Stewart, your host for this show, and I am joined, as always, by the affable, the beautiful, the lovely Landon Felter. Landon on camera. Landon, how are you doing today?
I'm doing just fine. Hello, everyone. I'm not just a disembodied voice.
Yeah, normally Landon is behind the computer and off the camera, but you get to see his incredible face as well as hear his dulcet tones. You are all the better for it. You guys to see what I get to see. Those of you who joined the live before we started talking, you got to see how the sausage is made, and hopefully you enjoyed that. I also enjoy seeing a good sausage. Anyway, so we are talking today about the newest episode of Penguin, because Jesus Christ, that show is nuts. We're also going to be talking about the highlight reel that they released from Disney, what's dropping on Disney Plus. Landon, did you get a chance to see that?
Not at all.
Oh my God. So we will talk about that here in just a minute. And then what was our top 5 for this?
Our top 5, this was 2 weeks ago now.
Yeah, why don't we do our top 5 Spider-Men? How's that sound?
Okay, I think I can come up with 5 Spider-Men.
I think I can come up with 5 Spider-Men too. So we will also be doing a top 5 list. We will be counting down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 with all of our favorites. Those of you in the audience, I will be calling on you to list your 5. If you can't think of one, that's fine. We'll just pressure you until you say a name. That's how we do things. So kicking off to begin with, we've got some news. Disney Plus just dropped a teaser reel onto their web, onto the web. I saw it on TikTok first, which is crazy that they're dropping full trailers on TikTok now. You guys seeing this? So they added a function in TikTok that you can go full screen and turn your phone sideways, which I think is interesting because it still puts the comments in the regular, what's the word I'm looking for?
Orientation.
Yes, that's the word I was looking for. In the regular orientation. So like you're watching this video and then like you see like stuff pop up and it's coming from this side. So you have to like, what'd that say? But anyway, so so now like they're dropping full trailers onto TikTok, which I just think is crazy for a short form video format to then be showing like 4 or 5 minute long TV trailers. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But what I am saying is that they dropped a sizzler reel that included a lot of footage from Daredevil Born Again, which I'm very excited about. I don't know if you guys are aware, but the original Netflix Daredevil series that they put out 5 years ago, I think, they have brought that entire cast back to make a new Daredevil series for Disney Plus. So Vincent D'Onofrio's back, Charlie Cox is returning as Matt Murdock, Daredevil, and they are doing the Daredevil Born Again storyline from the comics, which I think is probably one of the best storylines they did in the Daredevil comics. And it was a great run, and I'm excited to see it in live action.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always down for more Daredevil. I'm about halfway through. Well, I was about halfway through the series before I had to drop it a few months ago because of class. But
yeah, college is killing you, man. Have you considered dropping out to watch more television?
Don't say that to me, please. Don't.
Yeah,
I am like this.
You're on the edge.
I am
small
on the
push.
Edge. Small push is all it's going to take right
now.
Well,
Agatha all along has been incredible.
Oh, has it?
Yeah. But anyway, yes. So the sizzler reel for Disney featured just some really cool stuff that's dropping. We got to see Charlie Cox, Vincent D'Onofrio facing off the Daredevil and Kingpin. They're apparently like face to face at several parts in this. Kingpin's now the mayor of New York, which again is directly out of the comics. He's wielding some real power and he's trying to crack down on all vigilantes. And as we know, with Daredevil being in the broader MCU, there's another street level vigilante that lives in New York and swings around in the same area as Daredevil.
I wonder who you could be talking about.
I'm talking about the one and only Peter Parker Spider-Man. So what I think that this new series is setting up is a storyline from the comics that led to Kingpin and Spider-Man going head to head as well, because he was cracking down on all vigilantes in all of New York. And so that not only affected Daredevil, that affected Peter. And we know Kingpin as a villain for Daredevil from the television series, but typically he's a Spider-Man villain. So I'm really looking forward to the Tom Holland, Vincent D'Onofrio, Spider-Man Kingpin face-off.
Yeah, that could be good. I mean, just curious, like, there are no plans for any of the other, like, heroes from that era coming back. Are there? Like, is Luke Cage or anyone planned so far?
So, as it is always the case with Hollywood, and especially with Disney, they're the MCU, they're hush on everything, and everybody's under like the strictest NDA, and nobody can talk about anything. But it is strongly believed that we are getting Kristen Ritter's Jessica Jones back.
Mhm.
We are going to see Mike Coulter back as Luke Cage. Power Man. I forgot his name. It's so lame. It's so much easier to just say Luke Cage. And then also, and the reprisal no one asked for at all is Finn Jones coming back as Danny Rand, the Iron Fist as well. It is rumored that he has also been re-signed to show back up as Iron Fist.
He's their friend. He's the guy you bring along. He wasn't invited, but if they're coming, he's coming.
If there's one superhero from the Netflix Marvel era that they just said this is a variant and cast someone else entirely to be, it was Iron Fist. Like they could not have dropped the ball harder had it been made of lead. Like the Iron Fist series is boring. You come off the heels of all of these incredible Netflix series. Iron Fist was, or Power Man, Luke Cage was incredible. They did a great job of telling Luke Cage's story.
Mhm.
The first season of Jessica Jones, you got David Tennant, for Christ's sake, the 10th Doctor, showing up as the villain, and he is just seething and chewing every scene, and it's incredible, and it's visual, and it's fun. And of course, Daredevil. I'd say Daredevil season 2 from Netflix, probably the finest thing to have ever been put on cinema in the history of cinema. And then you get Iron Fist, and it's like, I mean, that's a show. There's actors, somebody has a superpower, but as far as the catalog, it's like the trend for like quality and entertainment was like here, and then they were just like, nah, that's good enough.
I mean, 3 out of 4, that ain't bad.
It could have been 4 out of 4. But they were like, you know what? He was in Game of Thrones. He knows how to fight. And they put him in there and like, you're the master of Kung Fu for the entire MCU. And he got like a week of training. Didn't learn any fight choreography, never learned any martial arts. And they were like, just throw some punches, throw some kicks, it'll be fine. Like Charlie Cox trained for 6 months to be Daredevil. 6 months of physical combat training, exercise, workouts to be the Matt Murdock for us in the MCU. And then whenever Iron Fist came around, they were like, you did Game of Thrones, you're fine. And it shows. Like if you watch the footage from it, the fight footage, he's like throwing punches like this, like so far away from people. And it's just upsetting and sad. And anyway, I could go on and on about this all day, but I'll get off of my soapbox. Yeah. But anyway, we're really excited about the sizzler reel they dropped. I'm really excited that we're getting Daredevil Born Again. We're going to get 18 episodes. It's going to be incredible. And we're getting Charlie Cox back. And I cannot say enough good things about that. You guys got any thoughts on that? No pressure. It's okay. You're not familiar with Daredevil? A little bit? That's okay. It's forgivable. You have time. You can catch up. That's, I guess, that at the end of the day, that's what I'm saying. You'll get there.
Yeah, you can learn. It's out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I love a good deep dive, and I certainly hyperfixate on literally anything I can get my hands on, as long as I find it even like nominally interesting. So that's my problem, not yours. But anyway, so moving on from that, we got the final 2 episodes of Agatha All Along. They dropped them the day before Halloween, which I thought was interesting because they could have dropped it on Halloween. You could have gotten like an Agatha watch along, but they did it the day prior. Dropped the final 2 episodes. The series ended well, and I can't say that about a lot of the MCU Disney Plus series. I'd say where I always find my biggest problem with that stuff is that it goes real strong until the ending, and then they don't do such a good job.
That's what I've heard for most of the Disney MCU stuff.
This one ends well. They took the opportunity to not only end it, but set it up for another entirely different series, which they're great at. I will say I was very disappointed. We get 9 incredible episodes of Agatha All Along. It's incredible television. Catherine Hahn does a great job. Joe Locke, phenomenal casting as Wiccan, does a great job as Billy Maximoff. But where was I going with that? They do a great job with that. The casting was great. The episodes were a blast. And the final episode is so like heart-wrenchingly sad for Agatha.
Oh,
Yes, it takes an opportunity to give you her history, and they take you to like, I'd say it's like 17th century colonial America, prior to like the Salem witch trials. And it's the story of like her, Rio, who, if you haven't watched the series, spoiler, is actually Death herself. She's Agatha's ex-girlfriend. And it tells the story of Agatha's son, Nicholas Scratch, how he was almost a failed, a miscarriage, and she begged Death to let him survive, and Death said, I can give you some time, but I can't tell you how much time I can give you. And so then she has like 10 years with her baby to raise him and love him, and they stay to themselves. They keep out in the woods. Agatha does her thing. She's killing witches left and right to gain power. And then you like really see where she, like, even though she's like traditionally not a good person, traditionally doesn't connect with people, she connected with Nicholas. And then unfortunately his time comes and Rio has to come get him, and she just can't forgive her for it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, I've got 5 kids, and I couldn't imagine losing a kid at 10, let alone it being the only human being you've ever connected with in your entire life.
Yeah. And I'm always a fan of stories in which somebody who is more or less an evil person, especially as Agatha is portrayed in this show, not so much in like the comics, but in this show, and then them being like softened up and like become more humane because of their connection with their kid after they become a parent, and then seeing them become more evil and more jaded and more hateful after they lose their kid. It's a powerful story every time.
There is in the narrative for Agatha, there's a strong case for the nature versus nurture of the whole situation. They do a great job when you in WandaVision, we're introduced to Agatha's mother and the Coven trying to kill Agatha, and in revenge, she steals all of their power and kills all of them instead. They're trying to burn her at the stake. In that scenario, you knew Agatha was the villain, and you're watching it from that perspective, like this is a bad person and she did a bad thing, and these people were trying to like correct that. They were like trying to solve that problem. But then when you watch Agatha all along, you see that Agatha's mother was awful. She hated her from the day she was born and mistreated her from the day she was born and told her she was awful from the day she was born. If you have any understanding of what that does to the human psyche, to have the one person that you should get unconditional love from the day you're born telling you that you are garbage, that you're a terrible human being, that you should never have existed, no wonder she has a hard time connecting with people. No wonder she doesn't want to be around anyone. It just humanized her in such a way that then you see that she gets the opportunity to give that unconditional love to her own child. And she does. She pours it on to Nicholas. Like, she gives him everything she never got from her mother, and then she loses him too. And she's adrift. She's adrift in the world. She's lost all of her connections. She hates everyone else. She couldn't rely on her parents. She never made any friends. She was a covenless witch, and she continued on as a covenless witch. So we get to the end of the series. We learn all of this about her. Billy thinks that Agatha has died. Actually, spoilers, she did die. Agatha dies. Agatha comes back as a ghost. She refuses to move on beyond her death. She decides to stay in the mortal realm. She's talking to Billy, and they decide that they like each other and they're going to be together. And Agatha finally gets that opportunity to be bonded to another human being. And that's where the series leaves off. From this, they're going on to finding Tommy. So Wiccan and Speed, those are Billy and Tommy Maximoff. Those are the children of Scarlet Witch and Vision. That comes from the comics. They did it in WandaVision. They did it for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And then we move into the Young Avengers storyline where they technically died as like 10-year-old children. Their souls were left adrift. And then in the Agatha All Along storyline, they find their way into comatose or passed away teenagers. And then they take over those roles and become those people as well. But they're also still Billy and Tommy Maximoff. And they gain their abilities. So Billy carries Wanda's reality warping magic. And Speed has Quicksilver's speed of sound. Speed. He moves fast. So that's where this storyline is going from there. They are moving on to trying to find Speed. That being said, we all know that storyline leads into the Young Avengers, where we meet Patriot, Wiccan, Speed, Hulkling. Those of you who aren't familiar with Hulkling, this is a green Hulk-looking character. Over the course of the storyline in the comics, it turned out that he was actually the child of the Kree and Skrull Emperor and Empress, and he carries the heritage of both the Kree and the Skrull, who traditionally in comics hate each other and only ever war, and he becomes the leader of both nations. So that's Hulkling, and he and Billy strike up a relationship, and it was a beautiful thing to happen in the comics. So I'm really looking forward to that in the live action. And then of course we get Stature, which is Ant-Man's daughter, Cassie Lang. I feel like I'm forgetting another Young Avenger, but these people have all been Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, Hawkeye, who was set up in the Hawkeye series. So all these people, the pieces are in place for all of these people in the MCU. And then I believe in the next year or so, we should see some sort of rollout for a Young Avengers movie or feature that is tying into all this Agatha all along stuff.
Yeah, at least an announcement sometime in the next year.
Yeah, because they've introduced them all. And the unfortunate thing with Disney, they usually have a 5-year plan for all of these movies. But I can tell you that, especially with Kate Bishop, who's playing Kate Bishop? Anyway, the actress that is playing her is getting closer to 30. It's really hard to have a Young Avengers cast who's in their 30s. That's not young. That's just the Avengers, So I feel like they need to get a move on, because all of the Young Avengers that they have introduced into the MCU already are aging out of being young.
Yeah. I mean, they could try relabeling it, not as Young Avengers, but Avengers Generation 2 or something like that.
I've seen the idea that they may do New Avengers with it as opposed to Young Avengers, which is fine. Haley Steinfeld, thank you. Yeah, I know she's mid-20s. Haley Steinfeld. I think she's 24-ish. But 5 years out, that's 29. That's not a teenager. That's certainly not the Young Avengers. But New Avengers, yeah, that still makes sense. Anybody been catching Penguin as it releases? Any of you guys? A little bit? Jacob, come on. You're Jacob, right? You're not Jacob. What is your name? I apologize, Scott. The Penguin series has got to be one of the greatest television shows ever made. And I know I said that Daredevil season 2 was probably the finest thing ever put on film, but Penguin is up there. They just did The Sopranos in Gotham. It is incredible. They took one of the most attractive human beings on the planet, Colin Farrell, sexiest man alive. I don't remember what year he did it. And they made him look so grotesque. And he does such a good job just being human filth, trying to go for a power grab in the underbelly of Gotham City, that it is compelling. It's exciting. You find yourself rooting for this person that is awful, just completely awful. There's literally nothing good about this guy. And you're watching the series and you still feel bad for him when things go poorly. And it's just nuts that they have the ability to do that on television.
I mean, normally in any sort of mob movie scenario, if you are following one member, it's usually they are the best of the worst. And that's not saying much.
Yeah. So the Penguin is he's just like a slug crawling across the bottom of Gotham's underbelly. And he just keeps making big power plays. And even when they don't work out for him, he angles them into a way that they work for him. And it is just such compelling writing. It's so well done. Colin Farrell chews up every single scene he is in. And the supporting cast is unbelievable. We actually have some MCU alums. The guy that plays Victor in that series was actually in The Runaways, which was a Marvel series on Hulu. And he has, they believe he may be playing the Batman villain Victor Zsasz in the Penguin series. And so he's getting this arc from young kid wanting to do good to turning very evil in a very compelling way. But I cannot say enough good things about the Penguin. It has been such a good show. We have been blessed this year with good superhero television, I think. Yeah.
From everything I've heard, yeah.
And speaking of good superhero television, we're talking about our 5 favorite Spider-Men on Top 5 today in honor of our good friend Josh Keaton here at CapeCon hanging out with us. I do have my Spectacular Spider-Man shirt on. That is a nice Spider-Man shirt as well.
This was unplanned. I just happened to wear this today.
Really? You did do that intentionally?
I did not do this intentionally.
You were like, I feel like red today.
Yeah, I'm feeling like red with blue jeans so that I look like I have the most generic outfit possible.
Yeah, and the cap.
And the
It's a
cap.
nice cap though. Like you could go traditional baseball cap, but you don't. You know.
No, I like my cadet cap.
Yeah, it's nice. Speaking of caps, did you see this Cape Events hat I had made?
Yeah, I saw that. It was
Yeah.
neat.
Oh my god, it's like an Air Jordan hat, but it's my thing. So anyway, we are doing our 5 favorite Spider-Man. Audience members, I will be calling on you. Feel free to shout out your numbered options, but if you decide not to, that's okay. Still do one anyway. Landon, would you give us the honor of doing your number 5, please?
Okay, so my number 5 would have to be Spider's Man. Spider's Man is a conglomerate of just a ton of spiders, ton of small little spiders that all collectively think that they're Peter Parker. And so they fill out an entire Spider-Man suit. It looks kind of bulgy, but it's in the general shape of a man. And they use that to swing around and act like Spider-Man. I know nothing else besides the character besides that. That image and idea is both grotesque and interesting to me, but they're also doing good as it. So they're doing good.
Landon, you're going to be shocked that I have more information about this, aren't you?
Please go on.
So Spider-Man was introduced during the Earth X storyline that Alex Ross did for Marvel. So after he did Kingdom Come for DC, he was then pulled by Marvel to do a similar future story where all of the superheroes have aged and they're older people. And he introduced he introduced Spider-Man in that run. And initially, when they introduced Spider-Man, he wasn't even in a Spider-Man costume. He just made like a humanish shape of spiders. And it was disgusting and he was awful. And thankfully, he had some staying power and he came back around in different series and stuff. But yes, he is as opposed to a man bitten by a spider, he is a superpowered spider who has the ability to control other spiders and pull together a human form. Which it is funny. I love it. He's a really creepy, disgusting character. He's like Oogie Boogie if he was Spider-Man.
The idea of a gray goo of spiders is possibly the most horrifying thing I could ever imagine.
Could you imagine having a conversation with a person and then whenever they nope out of the conversation, they just fall apart as a bunch of spiders and walk away?
Once, but that was during a horrible time in my brain.
That's your sleep paralysis demon?
No, that was just my dream.
Oh, okay. You need help. You need help.
I do.
We got any number 5s in the audience? Your number 5 favorite Spider-Man. No wrong answers. I'll judge you, but yeah, there's no wrong answers.
I mean, technically, this will be on the internet, so the internet will judge you.
The internet will definitely judge you. We've got quite a few people watching. Shout out to the audience, guys on the internet. Also, throw up your number 5s. Yeah, drop them in the chat. We'll mention them. We'll read them out to the guests or to the viewers. So if you've got a number 5 favorite Spider-Man, throw it up in the chat. We will read it for you. Sir, do you have a number 5 favorite Spider-Man? Nothing you can think of. A gentleman over here who I don't know. Do you have a number 5? The Nicolas Cage Spider-Man Noir. Now that is a great choice. He took an opportunity to do his best Humphrey Bogart, and it paid off. Like, I love the Nick Cage Spider-Man Noir. I find the Andy Samberg spider clone, the Scarlet Spider, to be derivative of Nicolas Cage's, which is unfortunate because Andy Samberg does a great Nick Cage impersonation, but I wish he would not have done it as his Spider-Man character. I wish he'd have done something original, but unfortunately he didn't. But anyway, anybody else got a number 5? Okay, I'll come back to you when we get to 3. Sounds good. My number 5 favorite Spider-Man is probably the Japanese Spider-Man from the television series. I'm drawing a blank on the name right this second. But he's got the Hell Fury Zord. So he was actually featured in the Into the Spider-Verse comic books. He is so in Japan, they did around the same time, they did an American Spider-Man television series in the 70s. They did one in Japan as well. But in Japan, because everything has to have a giant robot, not only was he Spider-Man and he turned into the Spider-Man character, he also had a giant robot that went along with his abilities, and it's just the craziest, most Japan shit you've ever seen in your life, and I absolutely love it. But that would be my number 5.
Man, I'm getting really tired of them trying to turn Spider-Man from a street level hero to a galactic level hero.
Yeah, and so as opposed to being bitten by a spider, I believe he's cursed by a demon, and that's how he gets his spider abilities. But they did include him in the Into the Spider-Verse comics, and it was a lot of fun.
No, to be fair, I'm pretty sure canon Peter Parker has been cursed by a demon many, many times.
That's true. Mephisto does love him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does come after him as often as possible. Landon, what do you have for number 4?
All right, my number 4 straight up has to be Miles Morales. He starts out in like the Ultimate Universe, as we all know as the Ultimate Spider-Man, and like he started out in time. People weren't really too sure about the Ultimate Universe. They were iffy, especially on Miles for, we'll call it surface level reasons. And over time,
I mean,
like
Fox News had a heyday when they introduced him. If that tells you anything.
yeah. And like over time, they do like come to love Miles, his storyline and everything. He's one of the few things that managed to actually stay from that universe after it collapsed, along with the Maker. But
so I love that the intent with the Ultimate Marvel Universe was they were like, our main comic line has become too convoluted. It's hard to understand. It's really hard for people to like come in at an entry level because there's just so much history. So here's a fun idea. We'll restart the entire Marvel Universe. We'll call it the Ultimate Universe. It'll run concurrently with the Marvel Universe. What we'll do is we'll keep the characters simple, the storyline simple. We'll make it very easy for people to enter and enjoy and just know the characters as who they are. But you don't have to have at that point, I think like 65 years of comic history to understand what's going on in the stories. But Marvel being Marvel, editorial being editorial, it very quickly caught right up to the Marvel line as being incredibly convoluted, incredibly hard to follow. They had crazy storylines going on that stayed well outside of that universe. They started killing off characters. It was the Avengers weren't the Avengers, and
You're telling me it's hard to understand why Reed Richards is now a villain, has a cone head, and made a whole city?
Yes, why he looks like a xenomorph.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So whenever the Ultimate Marvel line got so far away from what they wanted Ultimate Marvel Comics to do, they were like, what would be really cool though? What if we just kill everyone? So then they had Magneto go absolutely crazy, create a giant tsunami event that covered the world in water and drowned 95% of the Marvel heroes. Mm-hmm. Like it didn't kill like 95% of the population, but the Marvel superheroes got hit hard. So even Wolverine drowned, which is, I don't want to get into why it doesn't make sense that Wolverine can drown, which is canonically the thing he said is the only way he can die. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't matter. But in the Ultimate comic line, even Wolverine drowned. Everybody died. Peter Parker survived. And then they decided, killing off major superheroes is a great way to sell an event. And they decided in the Ultimate Comics, they were going to kill Peter Parker off. So Peter Parker has the worst day of his life. The Avengers are after him. He's fighting Captain America. The Punisher shoots him. He's got a bullet wound through his stomach near his spine. And then Green Goblin comes back. And in the Ultimate Universe, Green Goblin was more like the Hulk. He was giant. He went from a normal human being to a giant rage monster. So in this comic storyline, Peter decides he's going to end Norman Osborn's threat permanently. They have their final fight. So he's got a bullet hole through him. He's bleeding everywhere. The Avengers are trying to attack him. The Punisher's coming after him, and he's going to fight the Green Goblin. And he literally beats the hell out of Green Goblin, picks up a box truck, a whole truck, and smashes it over the Green Goblin's head until he dies. And the effort of that caused so much blood loss that Peter dies right there in the street. So now the Ultimate Universe has killed off most of their heroes, and they've killed off Spider-Man. What are they going to do? Introduce the coolest non-original superhero of all time. Miles Morales is a celebrated, loved character, and that never happens in comics. They introduce a new Superman. Do you know who any of those are? There have been several other Supermen besides Clark Kent. Can you name any of them?
I could name some of the attempted replacements.
Absolutely. No one likes them. There have been a plethora of other Batmen besides Bruce Wayne. How many of them do you know? Do you like Azrael? No one likes Azrael. Thank you, Keaton.
When Dick Grayson has to replace him after years.
That is a special instance. That was DC's fault. Dick Grayson becoming Batman was the perfect storyline. It was a culmination of the story of an orphan who was raised by Batman, became a hero on his own right, which was Nightwing, and then step into the mantle of his father and be an even better Batman. And DC was like, well, this is great and everybody loves it. Let's go back to Bruce Wayne. Anyway, doesn't matter. Miles Morales is beloved on both ends of the spectrum. Editorial loves him, fan loves him. He can do no wrong. Oh, so of course, when they finally decide all these universes are going to smash into each other, everybody's going to die, nobody's going to survive, it'll be the main Marvel universe, except for one person. Well, two. Except for two people. Three people. Possibly four. I'm probably forgetting another one. But the most important one is they just one-to-one port Miles Morales from the Ultimate Universe. They just like copy paste him into the Marvel comics and just go with it.
Mm-hmm.
They were just like, you know what? Good enough. They just drop him in. He went, and boy, did he take off again. People just love Miles Morales.
Yeah.
And I think the beautiful thing about Miles is that it proves that with Spider-Man, it's more important that the suit is more important than the character. Spider-Man can be anyone. And that's kind of the point. Stan Lee always said the reason you can't see any part of Spider-Man's body underneath his costume is because the idea is that Spider-Man can literally be anybody, and Miles Morales proves that.
Mm-hmm.
It does not matter how many Spider-Men there are, as long as they're in a Spider-Man costume, that's Spider-Man. And it's not true for Superman. It's not true for Batman. It's not true for Wolverine. It's not true for any of your other popular characters. We've had a couple of different Punishers. Nobody likes anybody but Frank Castle. It just does not. There is no copy paste for the rest of these characters, but it works with Spider-Man, and Miles is the best example of that. He's beloved. He stands on his own right. He's a hero. He's well known now. He's breaking the upper crust of superhero anonymity. So yes, I think I apologize. I can talk for many hours about this, and I won't make you sit through that. But yes, Miles, great choice. The other notable copy paste from the Ultimate Universe that I was thinking of, and you know this, James Hudson, who was the Ultimate Universe son of Wolverine, and then the Maker, who is the Ultimate Reed Richards, who is actually a giant evil version of a villain now. He's like he's on par with Doctor Doom for the Marvel Universe, and he's literally the superhero Reed Richards from the Ultimate line. Anyway. Anybody in the audience got a number 4 favorite Spider-Man? I know you're waiting for 3. I will come back around to you. Number 4 favorite Spider-Man? You did this to me last year too, man. Come on. That's okay. My years run together. I'm very old. I appreciate it. We really appreciate it. Okay, we'll come back to you on number 3. Any number 4 is out here. Oh my God, yes, absolutely. Now, which one? And I apologize. This is just because I'm crazy. But they've done 3 different Marvel Zombies lines, and none of them run together. Do you know which? Like, was it the original? Okay, perfect. What did you like about him? That first zombie line is nuts. Whenever they decide to eat Galactus and they just get the power cosmic and they're like, okay, let's go eat the rest of the universe. Like, I love that. Like, it was just such a crazy like idea. And then they were like, well, that kind of wraps that. So I guess we'll do another Marvel Zombies universe 2, because we can't. They've revisited that one, but it just wrapped up that story so well. It's like, well, okay, another universe got turned to zombies.
It's like there's nothing more we can do here. Let's move on.
Yeah, and of course, for my money, the Ash versus Marvel Zombies is I think my favorite run on that, because anytime you add Ash from the Evil Dead to anything, it makes it better. I wish we could get Bruce Campbell. I have, there's been so many times I've just been like, what if we brought Bruce Campbell to the show? But man, he wants money. That guy wants some money for his appearances, and so.
Well-deserved money.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The only thing that I can hope is that someday his life is in peril and I happen to save him and he owes me a life debt and I get him to come to my shows forever into perpetuity from then on. And we become best friends and we start a locally sourced vegetable store. And then we get married and have a couple of kids and move into what?
Yeah.
What were we talking about?
We're on stage, Danny. We're on
What
stage.
was your number 3 favorite Spider-Man?
Wait, did we go over your number 4?
We did not. My number 4. Thank you, Landon. Always keeping me on track. You know, I ramble, guys. I'm a yapper. I get it honest. My number 4 favorite Spider-Man is Ninja Spider-Man. So Marvel loves to experiment with new ideas. They pass some stuff around, but they did what was probably one of the funniest things of all time. They did an anime verse in the comics, a manga verse. They did a manga verse in the comics. So they took, but they didn't hire like manga artists to make it. They took their like normal American, we make comic book artists, and they said, make some manga. And so it was like the like most like stereotypical caricature of what a manga is. But they introduced what was the coolest thing out of that whole series, because the rest of it kind of sucked. But a world where there were spider clans, and there was a spider clan of ninjas and a venom clan of ninjas. And so Peter Parker was born to the spider clan. He lived with his aunt and uncle, and it was his destiny to become a ninja. And so even though his aunt and uncle didn't want him to do it, he trained as a ninja, and he became this spider ninja. And so then he fights this giant, like, Shredder version of Venom in the comic. And, like, visually, out of all of them, like, Wolverine had laser claws in it, and he and Cyclops were brothers, and Cyclops was Cyclops because Wolverine had cut his eye out. Like, that whole thing is weird. Hulk was Godzilla. It's all over the place, and it was fun. But Ninja Spider-Man was just incredibly cool. And if you ever get a chance, look him up, because he's like got a giant head and a tiny little body, and he's just really like tough. I have the action figure. I didn't bring it. I apologize. But it's just so cool. Check it out if you get a minute. Landon, what's your number 3?
It has to be Miguel O'Hara from the comics.
Oh, yes.
See, Spider-Man 2099. I completely blanked for a second, despite him being my number 3. I don't know what is wrong with me. Terribly sorry.
I forgive you.
But yeah, him in the comics he was not like bitten by a radioactive spider or anything like that. This is the future. They know who Spider-Man was. They got his DNA and his blood, and he injects himself with Spider-Man's, like, was it his blood or just his DNA?
So I believe in the original, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm a few years out from this. Spider-Man 2099 came out whenever that was like incredibly far in the future and not like 50 years away. But he's a drug addict, and he got it and injected himself with it, thinking he was doing drugs, and he gave himself spider powers, if I remember correctly.
I thought he was. It may be like a different line, because it's comics. They have like. Each character has like 5 different comic lines that you could draw from.
I may be wrong. I thought that was the origin of Spider-Man 2099. He didn't realize he was giving himself spider powers when he took the thing he took.
I thought I remembered it as he was a scientist working, and his lab got attacked, and he ended up injecting himself as like a last minute thing. You
know what? I'm gonna go with yours. That sounds better.
I could be completely wrong.
He could be Jason Todd. I mean,
he could be Jason Todd. You're right.
Or no, actually, Speedy, Roy Harper from the Green Arrow comics, who was. We'll get back around. I'll circle back. We'll talk about Roy Harper in a minute. Anyway,
yeah, we can talk about the 70s later.
Yeah. We're talking about the future, the far-flung future of 2099 that none of us will ever see, except maybe you.
Yeah, but he injects himself with spider powers. It's mostly right. He's as strong as Spider-Man. He has the same abilities, but like it messes up some other stuff. Like his eyes become more sensitive, so he has to wear sunglasses all the time and things along these lines. But he is just an incredible badass in the comics. At one point, he's able to wield Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, and he lifts it up, and then he just places it down in front of a bunch of people and like, I'm not using this. This was just to prove a point. I'm worthy. Listen to me when I tell you to do things. The hammer listens to me. And just like, I got to give him credit for just being insane.
Wonder Woman did that exact same thing in the Marvel versus DC crossover. She fought Storm in Marvel versus DC, and she picked up Mjolnir because, of course, Wonder Woman's worthy. Absolutely. She's a demigod herself. But she picks up Mjolnir. She turns into like a Thor Wonder Woman. She's got all this power, and then she looks at Storm, and she's like, yeah, that wouldn't be fair. And she just puts it down and then beats her without it, which is nuts. But
Yeah.
yes, great choice. Spider-Man 2099. The other cool thing about Spider-Man 2099, and they kind of rolled this into the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, but you know how in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, he had little like Velcro claws that was how he grabbed things. So Spider-Man 2099 had talons that popped out of the end of his fingers. They hooked out, and that's how he climbed things. Like he had like little spider hands on the end of his fingers. But yeah. Now we're back. Number 3. What's your number 3 favorite Spider-Man? What is it? Absolutely. I already see where your 3 are. So, yes, carry on. Tom Holland Spider-Man. Why? Yeah, I could have a beer with him. Absolutely. I think Tom Holland doesn't drink, though. And neither do I. So, I guess we could talk about sports or something. I don't know. Cricket. Do you know cricket? I don't know. It doesn't matter. But great choice. Anybody else got a number 3 favorite Spider-Man? Why is Tom Holland your number 3? Yes, inherently at number 3, you have 2 that are better. Perfect. Yes, he's number 3 because that's the order. I get it. Thank you, Keaton. Always going above and beyond. Anyone else, sir? That's perfect. Did you have a number 3?
My number 3 would be Tobey Maguire.
Okay.
And just because I like 2 others more, and one that was mentioned at number 3, I like a little bit more.
That's a perfect. Yeah, you placed him right where he belonged for you personally, I guess. I think that for definitely for our online viewers, that's it's not bad to go over the rules one more time. We got a number 3 favorite Spider-Man in the back there. No. Okay. Cool. I'll come back around for you for number 2. Anything?
1966 Spider-Man.
Okay. Fantastic. From what? Like the pointing meme? That Spider-Man? Yes. Okay. I love it. Absolutely. And what was your reason? That's Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
I just like it because it's funny.
Yeah.
It's just like it's a classic little TV show. So
Absolutely. And it's from a time whenever we had like Super Friends and Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and of course Miss Lion. Are you familiar with the Miss Lion character?
I am not. I have watched Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, but I don't
Okay.
know Miss Lion.
So in Spider-Man and the Amazing Friends, Aunt May is a big part of it, and she's got a Shar-Pei poodle named Miss Lion that is like a part of their adventure. She's the Beppo, the monkey of the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Landon, what do you got for your number 2?
I think you're forgetting something.
Danny, what do you have for your number 3? My number 3 is I think it is probably Kane. My number 3 is Kane. So it is generally disliked by the comic community that Spider-Man had the clone saga where there was just like 4 or 5 Spider-Men running around. But there was so there's Peter Parker. There's the other Peter Parker, which is Ben Reilly. And then there's a third one that they just call Kane. And Kane's not inherently a good guy. He's actually a villain. Do you guys know why Kane is a bad Spider-Man as opposed to a good one? Anybody? He's ugly. Kane became an evil version of Peter Parker because in the cloning process, his face didn't come out right. So Peter Parker, not traditionally very vain that I'm aware of. He's kind of down on his luck. But apparently when you clone him and his face isn't good, he turns evil. That was all it took. He Dr. Doomed himself. So Kane is an imperfect clone of Spider-Man. He struggles because his body falls apart on him a lot. He's constantly doing science to try to heal himself. He died at one point. They buried him. Everybody's like, oh, man, that sucks. Kane's dead. And then, like, a couple months later, there's just a random scene of, like, a patch of grass, and Kane pops out of, like, surprise, I'm alive. And then his body fixed itself for no reason whatsoever. He looked like Peter again. And then he took on an all-red costume of Spider-Man, and he moved to Dallas, Texas, and became the Spider-Man of Texas for a while. Which I don't know if you guys have ever been to Dallas, but there's not that many skyscrapers in Dallas. It's a weird choice for Spider-Man, but that's what he did. But Kane is a fun character. He's constantly flip-flopping between an absolute wretch, a villain, and a superhero. His moral code is all over the place. And the crazy thing about Kane, like all of the Spider clones, he has every one of Peter Parker's memories. He knows who he is. He knows who Peter Parker is, but because he was ugly for a little bit, entirely different human being, which is just nuts. And maybe it's because I've been a darling of the stage and screen my entire life, and I'm, graced with this, and you're all welcome. But I just can't understand the motivation for a character to just be like, you know what would happen if we made Spider-Man ugly? Villain.
I'm trying to think of it more as like, was it like a reminder that he was a more of a, let's say, a failed clone of Peter? Was that like, and that like his face being like that was just a constant reminder of that? Was there any psychological angle, or was it really just I'm ugly, that's why?
I think you're being a lot kinder to this ugly piece of garbage than I am. But I think you might be right that maybe the pathos plays into it a little bit. I just find it interesting that Peter Parker would be canonically so vain that if you made him ugly, he'd turn evil, you know? But I think you're right. I think it a constant reminder that he's not the original, that he's somehow less than the whole, possibly led to some of that pathos. Yeah.
Mhm.
Landon, what do you got for number 2?
My number 2, I gotta give it to the '90s Spider-Man. The animated version.
Absolutely.
That show, I don't think it ran very long, but it was crazy. Like at one point, Spider-Man Spider Mutation goes even further and becomes even more of a man-spider hybrid. He marries Mary Jane only to find out that she's a water clone and basically dies in front of him. The production of that was also insane because the sensors were constantly on them for the weirdest of things. Like Daredevil appears in it, and the sensors are on them for Daredevil, being like, okay, can you not make the costume red? Okay, can you not give him horns? And like they're just giving them like tons of crazy notes for every episode. Like finding out the story behind that, and as well as like the storylines for that whole series, it's just an interesting and very entertaining. So I gotta give it to the '90s Spider-Man. If not for the character itself, just everything around them.
Yeah, that we were very blessed in the 90s to have Batman the Animated Series, the Incredible Spider-Man series, and of course we got X-Men at the same time. And what a transitional period for comic book hero medium to become so popular, because I don't believe we would have the cinematic universes and the DC universes that we have today had it not been for the impact of all of that on pop culture at the time. So I think that's what cracked the surface. Certainly. We've got number 2. Do you have a number 2? Absolutely, yeah, the Insomniac Spider-Man. Yeah, that's a great choice. Hit me.
I think that I like the way they actually portrayed him as a Spider-Man because I think he's the first one that I saw at least that came in not being his first day on the job. I love Tom Holland had been Spider-Man. I mean, he'd really been, he might as well doing like his own thing inside, glorified Clone Camp, what it was called. But like seeing a Spider-Man that was fully realized, all the gadgets, all the tech, all everything coming out of that point in time. That's the first time I ever saw come in like that. It wasn't a comic book. So
yeah.
It was a fantastic show.
And then they did like an AI amalgam of like Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield. Come on in, guys. And made his face, and it was just like so weird to see like 3 faces at one time. It just depended on how you were looking at him, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
We got a number 2 over here. Oh, you were waiting for number 1. Number 2. Okay, go ahead. What's up, Thomas? Yeah, I love that series.
Yeah.
What was your number 2? Yeah, Andrew Garfield. Yeah, absolutely. I think Andrew Garfield was the best in costume Spider-Man and the worst Peter Parker. That's my. I think, and I'm sure we'll get to your number 1 on the list for this as well. But I think Tobey Maguire was the best Peter Parker, worst in costume Spider-Man. I think Andrew Garfield was the best in costume Spider-Man, worst Peter Parker, and I think Tom Holland just strikes a balance right through the middle. What do you got for your number 2? Yeah, absolutely.
I remember watching it in the 90s, but then when you guys mentioned the earlier cartoon version of Spider-Man, but for some reason there's one episode in particular that really sticks out. It's him against the Lizard King. He's letting all those lizards out from the zoo, I think, and for some reason I will never forget that episode. I'm assuming it's part of the 90s series, but
Yeah. You got a number 2 back here?
I was gonna say Miguel O'Hara from
Spider-Man 2099.
because we see how a lot of the Spider-Men say that they're that universe's one and only Spider-Man, but with him, once he finds out that he's not the only one like him, he's the only one where we really see the aftermath of how that affected him of not being the only one.
I have an issue from that comic run, the original 2099 comic run, and it cracks me up because it's so 90s. But Spider-Man, so Miguel O'Hara, the 2099 Spider-Man, finds himself in a VR world. He's like trapped in like he gets SAO'd. He finds himself in a VR world that he can't get out of, and his Spider-Man costume in that is elbow pads, knee pads, a Spider-Man helmet, and rollerblades, and they're neon green and pink. And it is the weirdest, most 90s stuff you will ever see in your life. It'd have to be a throwback to make it in comics today, but at the time they were like, this is edgy. Kids are rollerblading. This is gonna be awesome. And it's the silliest shit. I wish I could just flip it over and show it to you guys, but Google it. Spider-Man 2099 rollerblade suit. It's so funny. My number, you got number 2? Yeah. Yeah.
I just really like how the suit looked because it moved with the wind and stuff when he was like swinging through the air, and I felt the suit was really real.
Do you like the first Andrew Garfield suit or the second Andrew Garfield suit?
Probably second one.
When he had the first one, he had the narrow gold eyes. The second one, he had the big comic book eyes. Yeah. See, I feel that way too. My brother and I, Ben, he's actually in the comments. We go back and he said he likes the first suit, but I think the second one is the most comic accurate suit we have ever gotten. It's got the giant eyes. Like, I love everything about it. The only thing I wish it had done is that he'd had the Tom Holland eyes that move, because that would have been just perfect for that suit. But I'm glad we eventually got it. But yeah, great choice. My number 2, I literally was just thinking about it. I had it and now I've already forgotten what it was. Give me 2 seconds. It was, never mind. I take it back. It is the I would love to just throw it out there because he's here, but as my number 1, but he's not. My number 2 favorite, the Spectacular Spider-Man from the Disney series, Josh Keaton, who's actually out there signing autographs right now. I think that series was, barring the 90s series, the best modern Spider-Man series that has been put out. It had a lot more heart, had a lot more feeling than the Ultimate Spider-Man series. Certainly more than the Spider-Man and his Amazing Friends series that is for toddlers. But of course, it had Josh Keaton's legendary voice behind it, and he's done so many other Marvel characters. You know, he's Steve Rogers in the What If series. He's Tony Stark in Midnight Suns, but this was his turn to do Spider-Man, and I just think it was so incredible.
Yeah, I remember seeing a bit about that series. I remember a lot of people at the time talking about how they didn't necessarily like the look of it because it was too cartoony.
It was pretty toned down. They went real simple with the art.
But honestly, like, the story and writing was phenomenal.
Yes, I agree with that. Landon, would you be so kind as to give me
Cover your ears.
your number 1? Landon, your number 1, please.
I miss sitting at the desk already. My number 1 has to be Peter Parker, the original, the comics, any line, because Peter Parker, he never really has it good. You know, like, he can have it good, but it's never for long, and it's never that good. Like, the best we see him in almost any media would honestly have to be from the Spider-Verse movie, where you see him with his daughter and Mary Jane and everything. And that's like the best he's got it, because normally he's down on his luck. Either he's living in a rundown apartment, or his friends are all abandoning him for ditching them for Spider-Man things, or what have you. He's just never having a good time of it. But you know what he keeps doing? He keeps getting up, he keeps doing his Spider-Man thing, and he keeps saving the day, no matter how much it ruins his life. He believes great power has great responsibility, and he's going to live up to that responsibility, no matter what it takes. And I gotta give him credit for that.
We got any number 1s in the crowd. What was your number 1, sir? Yeah. That's 2. Yeah, that's when he's fighting Doc Ock.
Yeah, when this whole match was poured away, I thought it was really neat how like everybody literally for one of the rare few times actually thought who he actually was, but
Yep. Yeah, that was great. What was your number one? You grew up with that one? Yeah.
I went to Spider-Man that was married to Mary Jane and they have 1 minute more day. Like, get rid of that.
Yeah, One More Day has been such a pain in the ass for all of the Spider-Man comics, and I wish they would just get rid of it. I completely agree. The fact that they just keep this thing going, because the idea of a happily married superhero is just so hard. Like, it just they don't think it sells. That's literally editorial's reason for doing that, and they've never gone back on it.
And they did it because Peter Parker can't deal with the devil and stuff like that.
Yeah, to save Aunt May. I wish they would just fold it in the M2 universe and make it where him and Mary Jane have Mayday, and they just have their happy family, and she becomes Spider-Man, and they just fold that into the main comics, because it would be so much better.
Just make it like an alternate version or something.
You got number one, brother?
Tom Holland.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for it. I think he nailed it with the balance thing, and I think just the whole way it played out in his relationship with Tony Stark and everything. It just, I don't know. I just thought it was awesome.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more that the MCU dropped that at the perfect time. Like that the appearance in Civil War, it got spoiled, but still incredible when it happened. Like, and Tom Holland is just such a genuine. He is so Peter Parker in real life. Like, he just is. He's just an awkward, fun little guy. Yeah. Did you have a number one?
Mine was Peter Parker for the same.
I thought you got up and left with your friend. Or I apologize.
It was Peter Parker for the same reason, because he just feels like, or Tom Holland, because he suits the role so well, but also, like you had said earlier, he had that very middle ground line of Peter Parker and Spider-Man as one person. And also, I'd grown up watching the Tom Holland Spider-Mans.
Yeah. I think it speaks a lot to Spider-Man's staying power that he's such a, like, Peter Parker's such a well-written character, or such a well-created character. Did you have a number one?
Very Spectacular Spider-Man, because I just love that show so much. And I got like a picture with him.
Yeah, he's a super nice guy, man. I had heard prior to us booking him that he was just like cool, and it's absolutely true. Like, some of these people are all smoke and mirrors, and they're just not that great behind scenes. Josh Keaton has just been such a genuinely nice human being since I've met him, and I really have enjoyed him, and it speaks volumes to, like, casting for Spider-Man, who they're looking for, who these people that they let represent this character are. They're genuinely good people traditionally, you know. Even mean Tobey Maguire is genuinely believed to be a decent human being. Yeah. My number one, I'm gonna drift away from everything you guys just said. It is the Superior Spider-Man from whenever Doc Ock took over Peter Parker's body. I loved it. That is my favorite version of Spider-Man. I think that Doc Ock taking over Peter's life, his powers, his abilities, looking at it and being like, why do you make everything so hard? You're a genius. You have the ability. Make your life easier. And he does that. And even with all of that, even putting himself first, even having the mentality that he can fix everything with technology, he finds out that that's just not how it works. Being Spider-Man is all about sacrifice. It's all about saving the people around you. It's all about great power, great responsibility. And even as a millionaire tech industry corporation owner, Otto Octavius had the same problems Peter Parker has. Like, it still presented itself. He still had to be that guy in every situation, and he still had to sacrifice to be Spider-Man. And I just loved that storyline. And so whenever they cloned him, gave him his own body, put Peter back in his own body, and kept Doc Ock in a version of Peter's body, I was like, this is awesome. I love it. So excited about this. And then Marvel was like, psych, we're putting him back in an old man's body. He's Doc Ock again. And I was like, no, come on. So anyway, Superior Spider-Man isn't technically around anymore, but then there's an alternate reality version that exists. But that's true. He did at one point get down with Aunt May. They almost got married, and Peter was like, no, don't marry my Spider-Man's arch nemesis. But anyway, it's yeah. But I just love Superior Spider-Man. I think it's one of the smartest things Marvel's ever done, and I think they did great for a while, and then somebody else got a hold of it and they just tanked it. But it was awesome while it lasted. Guys, I am completely out of time here. I told you I'm a yapper. I run way too long. It is past 1 o'clock. I apologize. Thank you so much for joining us for the show, everybody online. Thank you for jumping in. We appreciate you in the chat. The audience, you guys are great as our returning people. I love you guys. Please continue to come back every year. I love hanging out with you every year. And, you know, if you're ever just free and in the area, call me.
Yes. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you all for participating. It's wonderful to do this.
Yes, you guys have been great. We have been Cutting Edge Hero, and we will see you next year. Thank you, guys.
See y'all.
Yeah, clapping was the appropriate response. I'm glad at least one person did it. I thought we were going to slow clap it, and then it just tapered off.